Hey guys, what is up? This is Mr. A. Crizzy here, and welcome back to another movie review once again. This movie review is on the 1991 psychological horror film starring Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster, The Silence of the Lambs. The Silence of the Lambs was released in early of 1991, in February of 1991, and so the movie is about a top student at the FBI's training academy, like Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster, and Jack Crawford, what wants Clarice to interview Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant psychiatrist who's also a violent psychopath, serving life behind bars for various acts of murder and cannibalism. Crawford believes that Lecter may have insight into a case that Starling was as an attractive young woman maybe just the ball to draw him out. And we got ourselves one of the best horror films of all time, The Silence of the Lambs. So I remember hearing about this movie a long time ago, back when I was a young adult, and I gotta say, I actually recently watched this movie on Max recently. Back when I went back, I think it was back when July began, and it's also on my movie calendar, and it's also on my 2023 movie calendar for the month July. So I watched the whole movie on the first day of July this year and this month, and I actually really loved The Silence of the Lambs because this movie was great. It was awesome, spectacular, and definitely one of the best horror films of all time. Yeah, and definitely one of the best scary movies as well. Yeah, because I loved every single thing about this movie, and the only thing that makes this movie different from many horror movies is that there's no jump shocks at all. Even though there are some scenes that blend in with the horror aspects, and it's like and even the cinematography, what makes this movie cinema, and what makes this movie just basically how the cinematography works and the direction, and also the performances between Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins definitely did a really great job playing Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And there is a sequel that came out in 2001 called Hannibal, which I still have not watched yet, but maybe I will. Maybe I might check it out one day. But yeah, so Dr. Hannibal Lecter was definitely one of the best characters in this movie, and Anthony Hopkins did a great job playing him. Jodie Foster did great as Clarice Starling as well. Jodie Foster, she did great. And pretty much this movie this movie does blend in with the psychological horror aspects, even though this movie is actually one of those rare horror films where there's not a single jump scare or jump shock, even though there are some scenes that blend in with the horror aspects, and what makes this movie scary, I think it's also like Anthony Hopkins' performance is what makes this movie have Anthony Hopkins perform one of his best roles that he's ever played in. Yeah, and of course it was released by Orion Pictures as well as MGM, and I can definitely say The Silence of the Lambs is also one of MGM's best movies that they ever released from 1991. And yeah, because I loved every single thing about this movie. Even the story and screenplay and concept is also very great too. It's got no flaws. It's like a perfect screenplay and story and concept for the way this movie is. Even this movie is actually written from it's actually adapted from like a novel, from what I've heard when I was doing research on this film. And yeah, because pretty much everything about Silence of the Lambs is definitely a really great horror film, and also one of my all-time favorite horror films as well. Yeah, I love every single thing about it, and if you haven't seen The Silence of the Lambs yet, then I recommend checking this one out. Yeah, I think this movie also won many awards too, including at the Oscars. This was actually the only horror film that won Best Picture of 1991. Yeah, this was actually the only scary movie, the only horror film that won Best Picture at the 1992 Oscars. Yeah. So aside from all that, overall, The Silence of the Lambs was awesome, fantastic, and definitely needs no introduction. And I'm gonna give The Silence of the Lambs 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely a 10 out of 10. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for my movie review on The Silence of the Lambs. And that's going to be it for this video. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And as always, thanks for watching. And until next time, this is Mr. A. Crizzy saying goodbye, everybody, and that's about it.